Coming up, we continue our coverage on the flood fight across the Red River Valley.
I'm Mike Morgan reporting from Washington, D.C. It was touring day in a big way for the Red River Valley veterans on the honor flight.
Plus, a train derailed early this morning in western North Dakota. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Nishay Taylor. Today was a very dry day, but how long will we get a break from the rain? Meteorologist Nathan Hopper is here now to fill us in. Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, Nishay. I've got great news, and that's we get a nice break from the dry conditions that were, a nice break from the rainy conditions, I should say, that we've seen the past 3 days, and we have some ridiculous rain totals. Of course, this picture here is from the Pembina area. Clarissa, shared this one with us, showing just how those roads are impacted there up in the Northern Valley. Verona, North Dakota measured 4.1 inches of precipitation. Ludden, North Dakota, 3.7 inches. Oaks, 3.3 inches or so. Jamestown, just over 3 inches. Medina, 2 3/4 inches, and then Valley City, 2.74 inches in the past 3 days. Also some more cities of note. Grand Forks, 2.09, the measurement there. Fargo, 1.76. Thief River Falls, almost 2 inches of rain in northern Minnesota. Then about 1.5 inches of rain in areas like Detroit Lakes and Pembina. Yeah, it was a wet one, and April was record setting in Fargo. That's the second wettest April ever. 5.45 inches of precipitation, just barely below the record wettest April from 1886. In Grand Forks at the National Weather Service office, they actually did set a new record of precipitation, almost 6.5 inches of precipitation this month, Nishay. So yeah, it's ridiculous, but I've got, again, good news with the dry ahead. I'll break it down in a few minutes.
All right, we need that good news. Thanks so much, Nathan. We continue our team coverage of the flood fight across the region. The city of Cavalier has issued a voluntary evacuation as a precaution for potential flooding. Valley News Team's Alex Larson is live in Cavalier with a look at conditions and more on why the city is asking some residents to evacuate. Alex?
Thanks, Nishay. I'm here in Cavalier at just one of the sites where crews and volunteers laid down sandbags earlier today. Other buildings have been sandbagged, and I've seen trailers with many more ready to go soon to battle this flood. Cavalier Mayor Lacey Hinkle did request a voluntary evacuation of some homes because of rising water levels that could prevent residents from being able to leave their homes. This includes River Street, South Bjornson Drive, Milana Drive, and Madison Street. I've seen a few streets that the water has traveled across, as well as some closed bridges. Officials say the rainfall and river working together are the cause for this emergency. The Red Cross and Pembina County Emergency Management are working together to figure out just how many residents are going to be impacted. But it's still up in the air on if there's going to be an emergency shelter. Officials are suggesting to find a safe place with friends or family if you are one of those impacted. But if you have nowhere to go, you're encouraged to call Pembina County Emergency Management. Live in Cavalier, Alex Larson, Valley News Live. Nishay?
Thanks so much, Alex. The city of Harwood has now declared a flood emergency today. The city council held a special meeting discussing the plan of action. Mayor Blake Hankey said this year's flood is one of the top 5 floods they've had in history. He says the flood emergency is out of an abundance of caution as the National Weather Service predicts the Cheyenne River will crest to about 91.4 feet. Although Mayor Hankey is asking residents to stay vigilant, he's requesting that citizens walking the dike report any noticeable changes to the dike to ensure it is holding up properly. And the city of Langdon is asking residents to either stop water usage or try to use it sparingly. They say the city's wastewater lift station is having trouble keeping up. City officials are also asking residents to be sure to disconnect sump pumps and place those hoses out onto the street. Smaller communities across the region are continuing to brace the impacts of rising floodwaters. We've heard from Valley City and Kindred on how they are getting prepared, but we now turn our attention to Lisbon. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling explains.
More and more smaller communities alongside the Cheyenne River are preparing for potential floodwaters. That's through sandbagging, floodgates, and road closures. but many of these towns now rely on their permanent flood walls to help minimize the impacts.
The river's going to do what it's going to do. We're ready for it.
Ross Cole, the former mayor of Lisbon, witnessed firsthand the destructive force of the 2009 floods. The water had overtaken the bridges, shops were closed, homes were ruined, and students were out of class helping to fill up sandbags.
It was unbelievable what we went through during the flood of 2009 as to how people came out to help get to where we needed to do to save the town.
But those days seem long ago, as the town now has improved technology to help them in their fight against the floods.
We have a lot of permanent levees.
Mayor Tim Meyer says he's keeping a close eye on the Cheyenne River and the forecast of when the river is supposed to rise.
We still have a part of the town that is not protected with permanent levees. So those we are walking and watching those, because you never know. In a flood fight situation, the river's high at 19 feet. You always got to be prepared.
But for now, everyone in the town is taking a sigh of relief, as predictions are having a better outlook. In Lisbon, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
The Lisbon area is forecasted to hit major flood levels according to the National Weather Service by May 3rd.
Attention Burlington Fire Department. Attention Burlington Fire Department. Please respond for a report of a train derailment and also a fire on the train.
The North Dakota National Guard deployed a Black Hawk helicopter to help fight a fire after a BNSF train derailed and caught fire early this morning. At least 11 train cars from an eastbound BNSF railway train derailed around 1 this morning between Minot and Dillex. Cars carrying paper products and frozen foods all caught on fire. Those with hazardous materials did not derail and were cut from the train as well as moved away from the scene. The Burlington Fire Department requested assistance with help fighting the fire because fire trucks were getting stuck in the mud near the scene. The Burlington Fire Chief says 50 volunteers assisted with battling the fire. It's unknown when the section of the rail track will reopen. And the Empire Builder routes that departed yesterday will not service between Minot and Shelby, Montana due to this morning's derailment. Amtrak routes impacted are the 727 route that departed Chicago and the 828 route that departed Seattle. Racing may have been the cause for a rollover crash that happened in Grand Forks this afternoon. GFPD says they responded to the call between the 800 and 900 block of Washington Street at around 4:30 this evening. When they arrived, a small pickup truck was found lying on its roof. Authorities say a witness told them 2 vehicles were racing on Washington Street. That's when the pickup lost control, struck a light pole, and flipped over onto its roof. 2 people were in the pickup at the time. Both were checked for injuries. Now their conditions are still unknown at this time. The crash is still under investigation. New tonight at 9. A man was arrested after police say he followed a woman into her apartment and then assaulted her. Just before 11 this morning, GFPD says they responded to an apartment building on the 2600 block of 13th Avenue South for suspicious activity. Police say the man followed the woman into the secure apartment building and asked her to use her phone. He then followed her into her apartment and assaulted her before fleeing the scene. The man was later found and was arrested. He now faces terrorizing and felonious restraint charges. Police say more charges may follow pending the investigation. Rain fell on our nation's capital this afternoon, but only after vets from the Red River Valley saw several incredible sights. Every hour on the hour from October through March, every half hour from April through September, the military guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is changed. Today, our veterans watched in silence as the guards maintained 90 steps per minute, marching in 21-step intervals to represent the 21-gun salute. There were several other stops on this day, including the Lincoln, Korean, and Vietnam memorials. This is the first honor flight in more than 2 years. The honor flights are a way to show appreciation and say thanks to these men and women who served our country. And along for the journey was Valley News Team's Mike Morgan.
What's it mean to come and tour these magnificent memorials?
I can't believe it. Beautiful.
getting emotional. It's okay. It's okay. You've got stories to tell.
Do I ever? It's, I don't even know how to explain it. Everything is just so out of the ordinary.
The group will be returning home tomorrow to Hector Airport at approximately 6 p.m. We are planning to be there live during our newscast and hope that you will gather inside the airport to welcome them back home. Later on Valley News Live at 10, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visits Ukraine.
The flood fight continues here in Pembina. The water right up to the bridge. There are sandbags in the foreground. Clarissa shared this one with us. And also this one from Clarissa in the Pembina area. That road closed sign almost underwater. Good news is we've got dry conditions ahead, but still some rivers are expected to rise in the days ahead. Your forecast is next.